I always thought betrayal would come with a warning. A shift in the air, a flicker in someone's eyes, a moment when instinct tugged at your sleeve and whispered, "Careful." Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Subscribe to receive more stories every day. But when it came, it was wrapped in satin ribbons and the scent of peonies. My name is Vanessa Bennett, and a year ago I was planning the happiest day of my life. My fiancé, Lucas, was everything a girl could dream of. Charming, handsome, attentive, and ambitious. My sister, Rachel, was my rock. My maid of honor, my best friend, the person I called when I was crying over late-night emails or celebrating a record-breaking quarter in my business. What I didn't know back then was that I was sleeping next to a man who kissed me goodnight and plotted my ruin, and sharing childhood memories with a sister who was sharpening the knife for my back. It started small, as these things often do. A missing contract here. A client meeting accidentally rescheduled there. A prenup Lucas's lawyer recommended that I was too distracted to fully read. Rachel would calm me down when I panicked, smoothing my hair back and laughing. "Van, you always overthink. Let Lucas handle some things. That's what marriage is about, trust." I believed her. God, I wanted to believe her. But deep down, something itched at the edges of my mind. It began the night I came home late from a meeting, earlier than expected, and heard whispering in the kitchen. Their laughter drifted through the hall, low and intimate, a sound I'd never associated with Rachel and Lucas together. When I stepped in, they both jumped. Rachel knocked over a wine glass, and Lucas coughed like he'd just told a stupid joke. "You're early," Rachel chirped, cheeks flushed. Lucas smiled too quickly. I should have confronted them. Instead, I smiled, kissed Lucas on the cheek. I poured myself a drink with trembling hands and played along. That night I didn't sleep. Over the next weeks, the signs piled up like snow. Lucas's sudden interest in my company's finances. Rachel's unusual questions about my estate plans. One night I caught Lucas in my home office, claiming he just wanted to check something. But the files on my desk weren't his business, not unless someone had told him they were. I stopped dismissing my gut. Instead, I called Olivia. Olivia and I had met in college. She was now a forensic accountant, sharp as a whip and allergic to lies. "I need you to look into something for me," I told her over coffee. Quietly. Her eyes sharpened. "How deep do you want me to dig?" "All the way," I whispered. The next few weeks were a masterclass in pretending. I smiled when Lucas held my hand. I laughed at Rachel's jokes. I let them plan bridal showers and cake tastings. I didn't tell them that Olivia was tracing every dollar, every email, every hidden account they thought I'd never find. The truth came faster than I expected. Lucas had been working with Rachel to transfer assets into a shell company they controlled, one that would absorb parts of my business after the wedding. The prenup had clauses I hadn't noticed, thanks to a lawyer they'd recommended. Clauses that, in the event of divorce, would strip me of almost everything. They planned to marry me, rob me blind, and walk away smiling. And the worst part, Rachel had done it before. When Olivia showed me the proof, emails, bank records, even a recorded phone call between Lucas and Rachel, I felt my knees buckle. "You okay?" Olivia asked softly. "No," I whispered, staring at the pile of betrayal in front of me. "But I will be. Because here's the thing about betrayal. It can shatter you, or it can sharpen you into something unbreakable." Chose the second. The days leading up to the wedding were a blur of silk, champagne, and fake smiles. I let them think I was distracted, overwhelmed, the perfect mark. But I was watching everything. When Lucas kissed me goodnight, I counted the seconds it took for his phone to buzz in the other room. When Rachel squeezed my shoulders, I felt the ice under her skin. On the eve of the wedding, I sat in my old bedroom at my parents' house, staring at my reflection. "You don't have to go through with this," Olivia had said that afternoon. "Yes, I do," I murmured. "They need to be caught in the act." Because catching them red-handed was the only way to stop them, to unravel their scheme publicly and permanently. The morning of the wedding, the air crackled with tension. My mother fussed with my veil. Rachel hovered at my side with a tremulous smile, and Lucas waited at the altar with a smirk that made my stomach turn. I walked down the aisle, heart hammering, every step echoing with the weight of what I was about to do. Halfway through the vows, I caught Lucas's eye. He looked smug. Smug enough to believe he'd won. The officiant's voice blurred into the background as I turned to face the crowd. "I'm sorry," I said, loud enough that the first few rows turned. "I can't do this." A collective gasp rippled through the room. Lucas's smile froze. Rachel went pale. I stepped back, pulling a folded document from my bouquet. The evidence, neat and damning. Olivia sat in the second row, her phone ready to dial the police. "I can't marry a liar," I said quietly. "And I can't share my life with thieves." For the first time in weeks, I felt free. The room was dead silent. For a moment, all I could hear was the rustle of silk from my dress as I stepped away from Lucas. His mouth was open but no sound came out. Rachel's hand, which had been clutching her bouquet tightly, slowly fell to her side. Guests whispered in shock. My parents stared in disbelief. "Vanessa," Lucas finally managed, his voice low, warning, as though he could reel me back with just a word. "What is this?" I turned to face him fully, meeting his eyes without a tremor. "This," I said, holding up the papers, "is every wire transfer, every email, every plan you and Rachel made behind my back. This is you plotting to steal my company. And this," I pointed to the camera Olivia was holding steadily from the aisle, "is the moment you both get caught." Rachel's face drained of color. "Vanessa, wait, you're misunderstanding." "No, Rachel." My voice cracked, but I didn't falter. "You're the one who misunderstood. You thought I was naive. You thought I was too blinded by love to notice." The guests erupted into murmurs. My father half rose from his chair. My mother clutched his arm, eyes wide and glassy. Lucas's fists clenched at his sides. "We can talk about this." "Not here." I let out a laugh, sharp, bitter and hollow. "Here is exactly where we'll talk." I left them standing at the altar and walked down the aisle, my dress brushing the floor like a banner of war. Olivia stood as I reached her, phone in hand. "Ready," she whispered. "Ready." Lucas and Rachel scrambled after me, their whispers turning to hissed arguments. "Vanessa, you're overreacting," Lucas snapped. "Don't ruin this." I turned, cold steel in my spine. "You ruined this." We exited the church, cameras flashing from startled guests' phones, and I watched them crumble under the weight of exposure. The police were waiting outside. Rachel looked at me one last time, eyes wide and desperate. "Vanessa, we're sisters." That broke something inside me. "We were," I whispered. "Not anymore." The next days were a hurricane of reporters, legal battles, and public fallout. My lawyer filed charges of attempted fraud. The prenup was shredded, the merger deal frozen, and both Lucas and Rachel were facing criminal investigations. At night, I sat in my empty apartment, listening to the echoes in the rooms that were supposed to be filled with laughter and celebration. Grief came in strange waves. One minute I was furious, smashing a wine glass against the sink. The next I was curled up on the couch, crying into a blanket that still smelled faintly of Lucas's cologne. I missed them both and I hated them both. Olivia became my anchor. She stayed late with me, talking through the financial damage, helping my team rebuild the company's defenses, guiding me through press statements. "You're handling this better than most," she said one night as we sifted through papers on my coffee table. I smiled faintly. "I don't feel like it." But I was learning. I learned that trust is a gift, not a weakness. I learned that survival isn't about pretending you're unbreakable. It's about picking up the pieces with bloody hands and standing anyway. Weeks passed, and the court dates arrived. Lucas showed up with a new lawyer, slick and smiling, pretending this was all a misunderstanding. Rachel tried to contact me, letters, calls, even showing up at my office once. I never answered. The courtroom was packed the day I testified. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but that didn't stop the reporters from waiting outside. I sat in the witness box, hands steady, voice clear. I detailed the scheme, the evidence, the betrayal. I told the judge how they'd almost ruined everything I'd built, how they'd played on my love and trust to get close enough to destroy me. Lucas didn't look at me once. Rachel cried silently at the defense table. And then came the moment I hadn't expected. The moment Rachel took the stand. I thought I'd hardened myself against her. But hearing her voice, seeing the trembling of her hands as she confessed, shook something loose inside me. I wanted what she had, Rachel whispered, her voice barely audible. All my life, I was in her shadow. The perfect daughter, the perfect CEO, the perfect everything. I didn't think she'd notice if I took just a little. I wanted to scream at her. To rage, to demand why my love hadn't been enough. But I stayed silent, fingers locked tightly together. The judge sentenced them both to probation, fines, and restitution. Not the jail time I'd once dreamed of, but enough to shatter their plans and reputations. Outside the courthouse, the sun was blinding. I stepped into the light, reporters shouting my name, cameras clicking wildly. Olivia touched my arm. "You did it," she murmured. I exhaled, feeling something lift off my chest. Not closure, not yet, but a beginning. As I faced the cameras, I realized something. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the start of a new chapter. 6 months after the trial, the whispers faded, the headlines quieted, and life began to reshape itself. But I didn't. Not completely. There's something about betrayal that leaves fingerprints on your soul. You move on, you rebuild, you smile for the cameras, but deep down you're never quite the same. For a while, I buried myself in work. My company surged forward, thanks to loyal clients and Olivia's fierce management. We launched a new product line, expanded internationally, and for the first time in months, I felt the buzz of excitement when I stepped into the office. But at night, when the lights went out, the ghosts came. I kept remembering the little things. Rachel braiding my hair as kids, Lucas kissing my forehead when I was sick, the sound of their laughter in the kitchen when they thought I wasn't listening. I wondered, was any of it real? Or had they been playing the long game all along? One evening, Olivia came over with a bottle of wine. "You're still punishing yourself," she said bluntly, settling onto my couch. I gave a tired laugh. "It's not that simple." She poured 2 glasses and handed one to me. "You caught them. You protected everything you built. You've done more than most people could. I just don't know how to trust again," I admitted, staring into my glass. Olivia nudged my knee with hers. "Start small. Trust yourself first." The real healing began the day Rachel sent her final letter. I almost didn't open it. But something in the delicate handwriting, the way she still curled her V like she used to in childhood notes, made me pause. Inside, there was no apology, only a line that pierced straight through me. "I always wanted to be you, Vanessa, but I never knew how to be me." For the first time, I realized Rachel's betrayal wasn't just about money or jealousy. It was about her own emptiness, her need to fill the spaces she thought I occupied so easily. And somehow, that understanding softened the sharp edges inside me. Months later, I stood in the lobby of a conference hall, adjusting the microphone clipped to my jacket. The organizers had asked me to speak about resilience, leadership, and crisis management. What they didn't know was that I'd spent every night before the event rehearsing how to tell my story without breaking apart. As I stepped onto the stage, the lights were blinding, but the sea of faces calmed me. I took a breath and began. I built a company from scratch. I thought I had built a life alongside it. A family, a future. But sometimes, the people you trust most become the ones who test you hardest. I watched as heads nodded, as people leaned forward in their seats. And here's what I learned. You are stronger than you know. You can lose everything, your plans, your pride, your peace, and still rise. Because what you rebuild on truth, and that is unshakable. The applause was a wave that washed over me, and for the first time I felt the weight lift. After the speech, as I mingled in the crowd, a quiet voice called my name. I turned, and there stood Lucas. My heart slammed into my ribs. He looked smaller somehow. No expensive suit, no confident swagger. Just a man stripped of the power he'd once wielded so easily. "Vanessa," he murmured. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry." I searched his face, waiting for the old anger to flare. But all I felt was stillness. "I hope you find peace, Lucas," I said softly. "I already have." And I walked away. In the months that followed, I traveled. I visited old friends, hiked alone in places where no one knew my name, rebuilt the bridges I'd let crumble during the chaos. Most importantly, I learned to forgive myself. Because the truth is, even the smartest, strongest people miss the signs. Even the sharpest hearts can be fooled. But survival isn't about never falling. It's about rising smarter, stronger, clearer. On the 1-year anniversary of the wedding that never was, I sat in the garden behind my apartment, sipping coffee and watching the sunrise. Olivia arrived with pastries, plopping into the chair beside me. "To not marrying assholes," she toasted, raising her cup. I laughed. Really laughed, the kind that shook through my chest and made my eyes water. "To not marrying assholes," I echoed, clinking cups with hers. We sat there in companionable silence, the world quiet and golden around us. And in that moment I knew. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel to receive more stories every day. Share with us what you think of this story and tell us where you're watching from.